It's called Android.
Nexus 1.
With the same software experience that we ship on our Nexus devices.
Google's journey into phones is interesting and fascinating. Dating all the way back to the very first Android phone that we saw, the HTC Dream, there had been rumors of the mythical Google phone coming. And we finally had it, and we saw what Google's version of operating system could be and should be. But that was on somebody else's hardware. And that theme continued the Nexus line of phones. But ultimately relying on another manufacturer to give your vision isn't always the best way to go. So Google got into the game themselves with the very first Pixel. And from the get-go, we saw what that phone was going to be about. Software updates, Android experience, and camera. So now as we enter the fourth generation, or does that Pixel promise still hold true? Do you get what Google's told you you're going to get? Or is it a bait and switch? When you pick up the Pixel 4 or the Pixel 4 XL, most people seem to fall in one of two camps. Either it is an antiquated, old design that continues an ugly legacy of Pixel phones, or it's industrial, it's useful, it's function over form, and there's beauty in that. And I think I'm more in the latter camp, and I've been tough on Pixel's designs in the past. I think they've been uninspired and rather ugly. I'm starting to really dig the way the Pixel 4 looks, the way the Pixel 4 feels. So if you go back and look at the legacy of Pixel phones, there's been certainly strong points on the camera side, but the screens have always been a weak point, an Achilles heel on what the phone was capable of. And when you're dealing with a device where you have to use the screen to do everything, the screens have to be good. And it appears that Google has heard those complaints and has really stepped up their screen game here with the 4 and the 4 XL. I love a 90 hertz display. It's by no means necessary at all. It's the whipped cream on top of a sundae. You don't need it, but you're really happy that it's there. It generally makes things scroll smoother, look better. I just generally like the way the screen looks. And I commend Google for not just putting in a better screen, but for putting in one of the best screens on phones. But there are some caveats. It does not get that bright. And if you're indoors, not an issue at all. If you use a phone outdoors a lot, say at your kid's soccer game and trying to get some pictures, you're gonna notice the screen does not get that bright. Might be an issue for some, might not be, but bear it in mind, and depending on how you wanna use your phone. So I'm gonna tell you guys a secret here. I never liked fingerprint unlock on any phone by any manufacturer. If my fingers were wet or dirty, they never worked that well. Maybe I don't have deep fingerprints, they never worked that well for me. So I was happy to see Google start introducing now face unlock. And that's really nice to have. Now I am for redundancy. I think it would have been a nice addition to have a fingerprint lock in addition to the face and the pin and the passcode that you get with Android phones. But face unlock is here and it works really fast, like insanely fast. If you've used Face ID on an iPhone, that's quick. This is the next level fast, but again, good and bad, it unlocks with your eyes closed. That doesn't particularly bother me, but I can see that could be a security concern for others. And maybe I don't like the fact that someone could hold my phone up while I'm sleeping and get access to all of my information. There's a lot of new stuff that got introduced with the Pixel 4 line of phones. Motion Sense, formerly Project Solly, was one of those potentially really big deals. It's using radar, which is a wild thing to have in a phone to essentially know what you're doing with your hand. As it exists right now, at essentially the launch window, the usefulness could be debated. You could swipe songs left and right. It'll know when you're picking up your phone. It'll tell you if you have it lifted up for an alarm and make the sounds quieter. But that's really it. What's exciting about it is the future. What it can be with software and how that can improve and give you more utility with your phone. If you're somebody with disabilities, this could be a really nice thing to have. But as it stands, again, now, it's more of a novelty than actually utility. So internals on the phone, you have a Snapdragon 855 and 6 gigs of RAM, which is nice. 855 is a very capable processor. I would have liked to have seen the best version of the processor that was out on shipping, and that's not what we have with the 855. Now, that put aside, on the good, it's still very capable. Anything I wanted to do on the phone was quick, it was buttery smooth, I had no issue with RAM management or things slowing down. But if you keep the phone for 1-2 years, after that 1 year, the 18-month period, that's when you're gonna like the extra headroom that you would get from the 855 Plus. But unlike the processor, which is still probably gonna be good for years to come, I can't wrap my head around the storage options. 64 gig standard, and I have lambasted Apple for doing the same thing on their iPhone line. That makes very little sense on any device. Now, maybe you're not the kind of person that uses a lot of internal storage, you back stuff up in the cloud a lot. That's fine, I get that. But at this price point where Google's playing, the expectation for more should be there. Now you have the option for $100 to go to 128, but that's it. You are capped out at 128 gigs of storage. No expandability options here. That is the most you are ever going to have in your phone. So if you're shooting a lot of video, you're downloading a lot of songs, you want to have a lot of movies for flight, you are perpetually going to be limited with how much you can put on your device. So on the software side, of course, it's Android 10, and part of that Pixel promise is you will always have the latest version of Android, at least for a few years. And the Pixel brings some new stuff to the table that I've never seen before. The real-time transcription seems like magic. It's not perfect, multiple people talking, it's not gonna work that great, but a one-on-one conversation, it's super accurate, and the fact that it's happening on device is even more amazing. And also on device is Google Assistant, which was already amazing. It is now even more so because it happens faster. I like the new UI, and I will 100 out of 100 times prefer to talk to Google's Assistant than any other assistant out there. The rest of Android 10 is Android 10. It's quick, it's fast, it's really elegant, and it works well. I like the gestures, like how they handle multitasking. We've seen it before, but it is probably the best version of Android 10 because, you know, it's made by Google. I got a real hard time with the Pixel 4 finding anything positive to say when it comes to battery life. If you saw our Versus video, I thought my Pixel 4, the smaller version, was broken during my first week of testing. I could not get through a full day, and I haven't had that experience with any device that I can at least remember. Adding a 90Hz screen is amazing, it makes the phone better, but it's harder on battery life. And to make the milliamp hours on the Pixel 4 battery smaller than the 3 is a head-scratching decision. Now, maybe there will be software updates that will fix optimization issues, maybe they'll fix management or processes, something going on inside that device to make battery life better, and I imagine that they probably will, but right now, it is the worst battery life tested phone that I can ever remember testing. Now it does get better on the big brother, the XL, which I had to switch to kind of midway through my testing process. You can get through a full day with the XL. If you're debating a Pixel 4 and you're not sure which one to get, go the big one. I promise you, you will not regret it and you'll be able to last a full day without having to charge it. So you can't talk about a Pixel without focusing on the camera. And for past generations of Pixel phones, the camera systems have been so much better than pretty much anything else out there. You could overlook some shortcomings those phones had. Well, the other manufacturers have stepped up their game, and competition has gotten really fierce with this generation of phones. And that's not to say the cameras on the Pixel 4 are bad, because they are certainly not. The stills that come out of the camera are still amongst the best in the industry. The new HDR Plus is working overtime. It does an amazing job coupled with the new white balance to make pictures really pop and see detail in things ordinarily you wouldn't see the detail in. So you've got dual control dials where if you want to get into it, you can control the shadows and the highlights, sort of give you almost a silhouette. And it's not to say that any of this is night and day difference than the Pixel 3. But a lot of that is due to software. What Google does on the software side to make those images look amazing. But there's new hardware here over the Pixel 3. You've got a telephoto camera now. And I know a lot of folks maybe fall in the ultra wide camp, they would have preferred it. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I really like having the telephoto option. But what's weird is there's no button that lets me automatically do the zoom. I have to either double tap or do a pinch to zoom to try to get to that 2 times. It's a weird omission. Hopefully, again, software will fix that weird shortcoming. Portrait mode on the Pixel 4 is like next level amazing. And again, improving from the already amazing Pixel 3, I think it does a really solid job of cutting out hair, of people, of animals, of sweaters. The portrait modes really look good. The Pixel 4 does a really admirable job with their night mode. Now, it's a separate toggle you switch to. Pictures look really good in situations where you could not take any pictures. A lot of shots, you can make them look like you almost took them in daylight. Now, there is still some noise that you'd expect from kind of the magic that's going on the software side, but it can take an almost dark shot and make it look like something you can use and want to look at. It's not even talking about the astrophotography mode, which does stuff that I have never seen a smartphone do. And it just goes to show what Google can do. It's kind of their ultimate flex for how their software and hardware can come together to give something really unique in the industry. So all of those things are some version of either good or amazing. Video on the Pixel has definitely been an Achilles heel, and that continues with the Pixel 4. Now, the video that you do get with the max resolution of 4K 30 look good. The stabilization is pretty solid. The HDR effect is pretty decent. It's not a bad video. It just doesn't match the amazing quality you get from the still side. But what is super weird is Google saying, we're going to max out what you can shoot at. We're gonna tell you the resolutions. You don't have the option to go to 4K 24, 4K 60. Google's saying people don't shoot at those anyway. It takes up too much space on your phone. Just use this instead. That sounds more like an Apple way of doing things, saying here's what you're going to use, like it or go somewhere else. Google's been all about choice. Let the consumer choose what they want. It's a head scratcher why they would do that with the phone when the hardware is very clearly capable of doing 4K at variable frame rates. So I can't say unequivocally the Pixel 4 camera system is the best in the industry. And that's not a knock on the Pixel. I think it's more a compliment to how good the competition has gotten. But the camera system that you have is amongst the best. And every still you take will be some version of really good. If you use video passingly, or you want video that'll work well enough for Instagram or Facebook, the video side is going to be fine. If you want the best video out there, Pixel's not going to be for you. But if you want the best still photography out there, I would still look the Pixel's way. The Pixel 4 is kind of a strange device. It does something so amazingly well, and some things I cannot understand. Starting at $800 and then have a phone that's not gonna last me a whole day, or I have to change how I use it, is a hard one to recommend. Now, if you wanna step up and go to the XL, you're paying even more money. If you want even more storage, you're adding $100 on top of that. What you have with the Pixel is a really cool idea. And I love when software manufacturers make their own hardware. You've got the Surface laptop, the iPhone, and now the Pixel. The makers of that software giving you what should be the best version of their software on hardware they have control over. And that's sort of the Pixel promise. This is what Android could be and should be as Google sees it. And perhaps the beauty of Android is that not everybody sees the operating system the same way. Samsung's got one vision, Huawei's got another, LG another. But Google, the maker of Android, this is how they envision Android to be. So when you pick up this phone or you blindly walk into a store and want to buy it, you should be getting the best Android experience going. And that's just not always the case.